Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. So, let's talk about the recent news about the Iranian government mandating the hijab. And they call it the haram police. The haram police going out there telling women what to do, telling women what to wear, telling women to wear the hijab. Why are you uncovering your hair? This has been a sticking point in the face of these secular liberalists, modernists, pro-choice, pro-liberals. They are a bunch of hypocrites, and I'll tell you why they're a bunch of hypocrites. When the French government, the secular liberal anti-religion government, when they banned the niqab, in France, none of these secular liberalists, modernists, pro-choice, liberal, feminists, not one of them protested in the streets for France, protested for women's rights, for Muslim women's rights, for their choice. None of them started burning the French flag. None of them started standing against the French government. None of them stood in solidarity with women's rights, with Muslim women's rights, with religious rights. Where were they? Where were they? They were all in hiding. Not one of them stuck up for women's rights to wear the veil, to wear the full face covering. In fact, they supported the ban. They supported the French government. They all spoke in favor of the French government and said how we need to stick up for French law, how we need to preserve French culture, because French culture is important. And they said to the Muslim women, if you want to practice the burqa, if you want to practice the niqab, go live in a Muslim country. Go to a Middle Eastern country. Go back to your backwoods country if you want to practice it. Don't impose your Muslim ideology in a French nation. We need to preserve the French culture. And then they use the excuse of, it's about security. Nonsense. It's bullshit. It wasn't about security. It was about preserving French culture. It was about removing any religious identity or symbol, because they looked at the hijab as a symbol of oppression, as a big lie. That's what it was about. It wasn't about security. When the French government introduced the niqab ban, crime didn't decrease. It didn't decrease, crime did it. And where was the hypocrisy? Where was the consistency? When you could wear a helmet, a bike helmet, a balaclava in special circumstances. If you're riding a bike, they say it's for safety measures. But there was no exception for the niqab. No exception. The only exception was if you're sitting in the privacy of your own vehicle, you can wear the niqab. Meaning no one else sees it except you. Meaning in the privacy of your own home. What's the point of niqab? What's the point of niqab when you do that? And then they said if you wear it in a religious service, well, that's just among Muslims. That's just amongst the sisters. What's the purpose? There's no exception of wearing it in public. Sure, you could say don't wear it in a bank. We don't have a problem where there's heightened security, or at an airport. But they said no, you can't even go to the milk bar and wear a niqab. You can't even walk your dog in the street and wear a niqab. You can't even take your child to a park and wear a niqab. So their identity, their idea is to remove religion. And that's what they did with religious symbols. Forget the niqab. You can't even have religious symbols in French schools. So how is that impinging on one's security? It's got nothing to do with security. So their idea was to remove religion. So when they talk about, Iran banning women from opening their hair, and you say that's intolerance, religious intolerance, what about your secular intolerance? And this isn't the first time. These secular liberalists were banning the hijab with Atatürk in Turkey, their secular master. They constantly oppressed the hijab, which they did in Turkey for many years. When Recep Tayyip Erdogan came in and he removed the ban where women were forbidden to go into politics wearing a hijab, or going to university wearing a hijab. President Erdogan removed this. That's why the secularists hate him. That's why they want him boycotted and removed from power. And the next argument they use is, women are treated differently in Iran. You know, why are only women targeted? Women are not targeted only, you idiots, you imbeciles. Men are also targeted. Muslim men in Iran, they're not allowed to go to a beach and swim in a beach with their underwear on and show their aura. They're not allowed. Now you may say, how come Muslim men aren't being arrested? Because they're not breaking the law. If you had Muslim men going to the beach naked, they're going to be arrested as well, but they don't do it. It's just that the feminists have a problem with it, because they're the most wretched ones. They're the ones trying to impose their secular liberalism on a Muslim nation. So why aren't you being consistent in your argument and telling those feminists to shut their mouths up and stop imposing their Western values on a Muslim culture? Why don't you tell those Iranian feminists to go live in a Western country? Yeah, so if you want to practice the non-hijab, go to a Western country. They're more than happy to accept you. If you want to display your private part and go do movies in a pornographic movie, go do it. You can go do that. The West allows it. Why are you imposing it on a Muslim nation? Because their aim is to secularize a Muslim nation, to change Islam in a Muslim nation. But you Westerners get unhappy when a Muslim comes to a Western nation and tries to Islamicize your nation. Then you're suddenly, no, we need to preserve our Western culture. We can't allow this to happen. So why are you allowing it in a Muslim nation? And then they say, we don't kill people. Why is Iran killing people? Look at the video. A video was released, and I'll put a hyperlink below this video. The lady that was arrested, she actually had a heart attack. The police didn't beat her and kill her. But suppose she was killed. Suppose she was killed. First of all, in Islamic Sharia, there is hudud punishment for one who commits adultery. From my understanding is, you can't kill a person who refuses to wear the hijab. From my understanding. From the opinions that I listen to. So even if it's true, and that the Iranian government kill women, which I don't believe it's true, because we don't see them doing the hudud where they take them to a particular place and they do a public execution. I personally haven't seen that, and if they did do that, then that's against Islam. But arresting a woman and fining her, this is completely legitimate. That's what you do in France. You can be fined, arrested, imprisoned if you keep breaking the law and wear the niqab. So why be a hypocrite? Many rights taken away from people even in Western societies. You can't go butt naked in Australia. Look, I'm in Australia. I I can't pull over and then unbuckle my pants. I can't go butt naked. I'll get arrested for public indecency, for public nudity. So you want to talk about pro-choice? You want to talk about 2022 and we're so liberal and we're so secular? You'll get arrested for public indecency and nudity. So who are you to talk about being arrested for my freedom and individual rights? And here is a final point. If these guys turn around and say, you Muslims are hypocrites, you always want to come to the West and you always want your rights, but then when secular liberalists want their rights in a Muslim nation, you don't give them their rights. Hello? We don't believe in secular liberalism, so we're not hypocrites. We have a standard. We have a moral code. You do too, though. You do too. So we're not really hypocrites when you turn around and say you're secular liberal and you allow religious rights and you allow all these rights. So it's not hypocritical if I ask for my right in this country, is it? But if you're going to go impose your secular Western rights in a country that's not open to your secular liberal ideology, then you can't obviously call it hypocritical if you don't get your rights there now. Can you? And when these hypocrites say, the Muslim Iranian women, they're actually Muslim. They want their religious rights. No, it's not a religious right. They have no religious right. They're trying to impose secular rights. In Islam, the hijab is mandated. It's a dress code for women. Men have a separate dress code. And this is a mandate, just like you have a dress code. If you go to work, you have a dress code. You can't go to work with a bikini. Your boss will sack you. So that country also has a mandated law. And that is a religious mandate. Now you may say, there's different Islamic scholars who disagree with the mandating and all this other nonsense. Well, we say that's a bunch of nonsense. There's a unanimous agreement amongst the scholars that it's mandated. And that's it. You agree to it, you agree to it. In this country, when there's a unanimous decision on a political law within secular law, you have to agree to it, regardless if there's a different politician who disagrees. Expansionism. But you need to go to war. I'm in favor of expansionism. Spreading justice, spreading rights, just as you are in favor of expansionism. You went and got all your weapons, your military might. You went to Afghanistan to fight and kill the Taliban and the Afghanis to implement secular law in that country. So you believe in expansionism. But if you want to make a change, you need to bring your armies there to Iran and fight them. Are you ready to do that? And if you are ready to do that, then how do you call yourself tolerable? Because you would accuse Muslims and Islam for Islamization, for spreading by the sword. But you yourself would want to do the same thing. So you're a bunch of hypocrites. You are a bunch of hypocrites.
And in the conclusion, I'd also will stress out the point that if these secular liberalists in France, for example, if they can make an excuse, which is a lie, and the excuse is, for security measures, we're trying to remove the niqab, the face covering, because, we need security, surveillance, identification. We need to know who is concealing their identity. We want to know behind the face of that veil. Therefore, we need our security measures to identify these people. So this is in the best interest of France. We need to make France more secure so it is more safe for civil society. Well, we can say the very same thing when it comes to the mandating of the hijab and the niqab. We could say, and there is documented evidence, there are social experiments proving that when women wear the niqab, especially the niqab and the hijab as well, that they are less heckled. They are less heckled by the public, meaning sexually harassed, less hit upon by men. We'll put a hyperlink below this video. It's documented evidence. You can see a woman walking with a hijab in New York, and then they compare a woman without a hijab, and she gets less heckled, right? So what women wear actually matters. And there's a hyperlink below this video, and I'll put a hyperlink below this video, and you can see, for those who claim, what women wear does not matter. That is a lie. It does matter. Women do beautify themselves, and men are attracted to beauty. It's a biological fact that you can't just dismiss. That's why women spend lots of time in front of the mirror to beautify themselves for the opposite sex. So when you wear revealing clothes, obviously it's going to attract the opposite sex, and so women get abused more when they uncover themselves. So there is social experiments showing that women who dress less are heckled more. So for that reason, the hijab should be mandatory, especially in a Muslim country where women are more are vulnerable into falling in the hands of perpetrators. So it is their responsibility to cover up, because it is for their safety. That's what you say. You care about safety. You care about women's rights. Well, you should care about their safety. You care about, crime in France. You care about civil society wanting to be free and, they want to live in peace. They don't want criminal activity. They don't want people to be harassed and robbed and mugged and murdered. You have surveillance. You care about safety, so you remove the banning. You remove the niqab. Well, if that is removed for safety measures, we put it on for safety measures because it protects against perpetrators, people who are sick in the mind. So watch the social experiment below. I'll end it with Daniel Hakikato.
According to Islamic law, hijab is mandatory. Also, according to Islam, everyone is responsible for maintaining a modest public space. The government also has to do its part to establish modesty as the norm in Islamic societies. Obviously, liberal secularists find all this horrifying, but they shouldn't. Stop thinking about everything in terms of individual rights and start thinking in broader, more holistic terms. A society that upholds sexual modesty through hijab and gender separation will suffer from less promiscuity, fewer extramarital affairs, and less divorce, less heartbreak, and instead will benefit from happier, more fulfilling marriages, fewer divorces, more stable families, which benefits society as a whole. Many of the problems plaguing modern society stem from this death of modesty at the altar of maximizing individual rights at all costs. This is irrational. Islam provides a better way. According to Islamic law,